What's up?
Hey everyone, how are you guys? I'm gonna speak for a little bit so I can hear that our voices sound good.
Are we good?
All right, I'm a little
Check,
quiet,
check.
Steven. Will you turn me up a tiny bit?
Check. How are we coming through?
Great. I think we're coming through. Chat, how do we sound? Give us a little bit of a sound off here.
Thumbs up, thumbs down. Put your hands in, spin around. I think we're good.
Audible, but a bit quiet. Turn us up all the way, Christian. We gotta blast these guys' ears out. They have the ability to lower their volume.
This is on you now. Anything that happens henceforth, all on you. All right.
No, nobody can hear you, Christian.
Yeah. All right.
We have an actual production team going on in the background right now, which is pretty exciting. So everyone thank Christian for bringing us to here. If you have any audio problems, let us know. We will be watching the chat to see if we can fix things as they need to be. But yeah, welcome everyone to the RoboMaster Narrative Podcast. It's not just the RoboMaster Podcast anymore. We're not just doing this for RoboMaster NA to podcast. I have an agenda today.
What's the agenda,
I've led Steven a little bit through this agenda, but I have an agenda. Steven, what are your thoughts on an agenda? What are your thoughts here with this?
I think you're trying to brainwash us.
I am trying to brainwash the community. Preston left me in charge for today, and it'll be the greatest mistake he's ever made because I have an agenda. You're in my wheelhouse now. I'm going to ensure that you learn my agenda. You understand the narrative that I'm putting together here.
I'm ready. Lay it on us.
I don't know if you're ready, Steven. Lay it on you? Christian, can I
lay it on us?
My stream, please, so everyone can see the agenda that I've cooked up together. We have a slideshow today, everybody. I think it's live. The slideshow is there. Yes, it is. Amazing.
You're good.
I'm calling this slideshow the Challengers. It's a very hastily put together slideshow for this podcast. The idea being, Steven, that I'm going to walk people through, number one, the importance of agendas. Number two, what the RoboMaster narrative, in my opinion, is. And number three, some key highlights of a group that I like to call the Challengers. If that doesn't make any sense yet, don't worry, it will. What am I even on about, right? What are you talking about, Shar? What is a narrative? What is this agenda posting you're talking about? Am I in a Jujutsu Kaisen subreddit? Like, what's happening here? I get that you're probably confused. Let me get into this a little bit with some video evidence real quick. I'm going to play this beginning clip from a Melee tournament very, very long ago called Pound 5. And nobody's going to understand it, and that's kind of intentional. I'm going to play this for a second. We're going to skip ahead a little bit here. You'll see they lock in, and you'll see two characters pop on screen. That's Young Link on the left and Jigglypuff on the right. You know what? So to give a little bit of context here, right?
Who picked Jigglypuff?
Well, Jigglypuff's actually really good in this game. Jigglypuff is picked by HBox, one of the best players in the world in Melee. Young Link over there picked by the other best player in the world at the time, Armada, who usually plays Peach instead. If you guys play Smash Bros, those are Smash Bros characters. Picking Young Link is like a throw in most people's opinion, right? So seeing this live on stage was very crazy. Everyone was like, what the heck is this Armada guy doing, right? A low-tier character, why would he pick this against Jigglypuff? Peach has a very bad matchup against Puff. Puff is very good against Peach. It's very hard to win at the top level with Peach if you're playing against Puff. Armada wins this, by the way, with Young Link, and it's crazy. It's insane, right? This story isn't interesting unless you know that context. The story doesn't make any sense if you don't know that context. You just see Young Link, Jigglypuff, you go, oh, I play Smash Bros. That's probably like normal. This is not normal. It's a narrative, right? There's a narrative here between these two players having played so much. They know each other so in and out that Armada goes for the worst option in order to beat this guy, right? The next one I want to bring up is F1. Any F1 fans in chat? China is going to have their race tonight, actually, which is very exciting.
Who are you going for?
Personally, I am a McLaren and Ferrari fan. I'm really hoping Ferrari actually pulls it out, though, this year because Hamilton's on Ferrari right now. But anyways, Norris wins in Miami. It was his first win. And doing this cements himself as a possible contender for the actual World Drivers' Championship and brings McLaren back on top for the 2024 season. Watching this car just pass this finish line doesn't matter to you if you don't know any of the context, right? And that's kind of what I want to get into today with RoboMaster. You're in my roadhouse today. We're going to talk about the context behind RoboMaster. We're going to talk about the narrative in RoboMaster and what I see as our overarching narrative going into the 2025 season, and the key people to watch out for to kind of give everyone up to speed. You know what I mean? Kind of similar to that, but a lot more in depth.
Give us the lore.
Give the lore, exactly. the lore, where I think this is going as a community. And chat, you are welcome to also give me your narratives. I actually have a section at the end split out just for you guys to talk about the narratives you're interested in us covering. But yeah, without further ado, maintaining the agenda is our top priority. Let's run into this. What is the narrative of RoboMaster NA? I think it comes down to 4 groups, 3 groups and everyone else essentially. You have the top 4, your TAMU, your UW, your VT, your NUS. These guys have been consistently in the top 4 for the last 2 years. These guys, they seem untouchable. They seem really hard to like beat, right? UW especially. We just had this whole conversation last week. These are the 4 we watched essentially go toe to toe to toe. They're in the semis. They're in the finals. They're in the grand finals. These are your top 4.
Schwar, I got to interject here.
You got to interject. Give me your interjection. What's happening?
You know that meme where it's like the 2 dragons that look really fierce, and then there's that one that kind of looks a little goofy?
Oh no, not the meme. I think I know where you're going with
this is like 3 dragons, and one looks a little goofy. I'm not going to say who.
No, Steven. We can't do this. We can't keep doing this. I love TAMU. Okay,
all right,
I love TAMU. I'm a TAMU fan. Anyways, top 4, that's there. The challengers is next, and that's who we're going to talk about today. I see this group as the like almost 5 through 8 essentially when it comes to the double elimination bracket.
Who's knocking on the door?
Who's knocking on the door? Exactly. Who's knocking on the door? Who's been knocking on the door for the last 2 years? And we'll get into who they are in a second. Then we have the cream of a new crop, which we'll talk about another time. We'll get back into them. These are your new rookies who I expect great things from or showed us great things last year specifically. And then everyone else for now. We've got our eyes on you. So going back into what the challengers really are, I see this as a particular group of teams that have begun to show crazy development in the last 2 years. I'm saying they went in at 2022 and didn't really place well, weren't particularly stand out in any capacity. And then immediately 2023, 2024, they have been on the grid doing the best they possibly can. You could tell I've been watching a lot of F1 because I said on the grid. Teams that are placing decently in the last 2 years, those that are in the top 5, top 6, top 7, right? And are able to consistently get there every of those last 2 years. That's not a large group of people, actually. There's only one team that's done that in the top 5, that stayed in the top 5. And then teams that have great showings versus the top 4 in either groups or eliminations. These are the people that I think deserve to be looked at more, and I think would be the challengers. So who are they? You must be wondering, chat. These are your 3 challengers in my mind. You have your Purdue Boilerbot, CU Robotics, SCO Buffs, and the Thorn bots from RHIT.
I like this. I like this list. You know, these are teams that have, you know, shown their mettle in either the past 2 years or recently with, you know, RHIT. They just recently started competing on their own last year, but they had a really good showing against one of their peers here in this squad. I think this is a good list. These guys have been grinding out, have been competing for a while. I think they're ready to make that jump. But continue. I want to hear some more about this agenda.
Absolutely. So I have some stats and some videos to show everyone to really defend myself here. We're going to first go into the last year's top 8 on both the 3v3 and the 1v1 side. And you'll notice the teams that I chose are here. CU actually in 1v1 number 2. Crazy showing from them. They did really good in that. And we'll talk about what happened for them in that 1v1 match for UW as well. And on the 3v3 side, we have Purdue and RHIT both making it in the top 8. And if you watch their matches against who got in the top 4, which we will do in a second, you'll see why I think this is a very strong top 8 finish. Similarly, in 2023, Purdue is that team I was talking about that's consistently in the top 6 every single year. They've been in since 2023. They did it in 2024. I'm not going to be shocked if they do it again or go higher this year in 2025. With the unique set of a unique robot in their balancing robot, which we'll talk about. CU as well had made it to the top 8 that year. RHIT was not allowed to compete this year, but we'll go into the Midwest as well a little bit, talk about why I think that they should still be here due to their Midwest showing in 2023 and 2024. But yeah, so it's time for the video evidence, because I'm sure people in chat are going, what the hell are you talking about, Shar? This doesn't make any sense to me. Let's get into it. We don't need this anymore. We'll start off with NUS versus CU in 2023.
Ooh, I love this match
here. This match was a very close match, I will say. Or it seemed like it'd be very close. So starting off, NUS this year, to give some context, and Steven, actually, you could probably correct me here. NUS placed second in this overall tournament, correct?
They did. They came out of nowhere. This was NUS's first year competing at RMNA. No one had ever heard of them. I was their defender. I warned everyone. I said, listen, there's this school in Singapore, and they're coming this year. and they're going to surprise a lot of people. No one believed me, but lo and behold, they came and they showed up.
Yeah, and they really showed up. They were doing amazing. This was like an unstoppable run for them, it seemed like. Anyway, CU's robots this year also had a really huge design change. They were incredibly tiny compared to the previous. I remember their previous hero before this was huge. Double-barreled hero, 42mm and 17mm. Was an insane hero, but did really well. Did very well this year as well. We're immediately seeing out the gate that CU has a little bit of problems here still with their ability to stay in the game, but they're coming back. They kill a couple of NUS's robots, and we're going into the actual match. We'll skip ahead a little bit just so that way you guys don't have to watch the whole thing, because 2023 matches are not as interesting as 2024 matches. But the main goal here is that you'll notice that CU is able to knock their sentry health really, really low, right? Get NUS down really low, which was a hard task for even Tamu. Tamu also struggled in the matchup against NUS originally, being unable to take their sentry down pretty quickly. CU takes down that sentry, brings their hero up to NUS's base and their standard, and just kind of melts through with the double barrel standard.
I want you to pause. Can you pause as well? Actually, go back. Just replay that last little segment for me.
Yeah,
you will. So something that I want you to point out during this base melting. Notice those barrel heat monitors. They don't move.
1 second to hit the refresh here. Yeah, you're right. They don't move.
If you pay attention, and I talked to, if there's any CU people in the chat and you don't want this exposed, let me know now, because I'm about to explain this for those who are curious. But basically, CU found out that if you can alternate the barrel, the fire rate between the two barrels at a certain frequency, it will cool off each barrel before any of the barrel heat accumulates. And so you can basically have what is essentially an unlimited stream of projectiles. And I thought this was so cool and so just nice ingenuitive of CU. It was really just
it right there, actually.
A breakthrough, because this was the first year that I believe this was the first year that standards were allowed to have two barrels, and CU absolutely made use of this.
Yeah, definitely capitalized on it in the design aspect, right? And that's part of the thing that I think sets these teams apart, is their engineering is very interesting, which I think I'm glad you brought that up on the CU side, because we're going to talk about it as well at the Purdue side. But yeah, so CU actually wins this first game here and beats NUS. And again, NUS does go on to win the whole match here, but CU already showing that they're able to keep up with what was essentially who was the second place, who was able to get to second place this year, right? Taking those games off those top four teams, like I said. CU also a very established team at this point, but really went through a renaissance, in my opinion, during the 2023 era. Again, with their new robot designs, they really hankered in on their software abilities. Their sentry's able to move around that box pretty decently, and also move around the map a little bit too. But we'll see here. We'll continue through. But yeah, Steven, you were going to say something.
I was just going to say, I think this year was the year of CU's training arc in an anime. Basically, they went into the hyperbolic time chamber and they came out punching.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll see that this game too is actually very close as well. CU actually takes the lead here originally, doing some sentry damage, but the sentry on NUS's side able to fight back a little bit better this time. I believe there was a standard jam, is why CU is doing a little bit less. You can actually see that their infantry ammo is at 117. It hasn't really shot too much right now, but yeah, see it unjams eventually. And through just skillful play, NUS is able to do a tiny bit more damage to CU here. I would like to knock out their sentry down lower.
I'm going to brag on NUS again this year, but their hero driver was absolutely insane. He was landing shots on robots from halfway across the map as they're retreating. He was not letting anything escape, and he was just going off the entire tournament. We had to bring him onto the stream, I think, at one point and do an interview with him. But this just goes back to what made NUS so good, their drivers. And this year, they explained it to us. They have to have their drivers train, reach it's some extreme amounts, 1,100 hours or something. I don't remember. But they have to, train in various, I can't remember which video game they use. But think of it, it's yeah. So it's they put so much emphasis on not just the robustness and simplicity of the robots, but also in their driver effectiveness. And I think that just 3,000 hours in CSGO. It's insane. It's like, I don't think any other team comes close to this in terms of how much prep and work they put on their drivers.
We actually see it here. So we're going into this confrontation right here. CU is already a little bit on the back burner. They've been knocked out by these standards. You'll see that their health is really low, and the NUS standard is just able to get in. And this is what cost them the game. Is that the NUS standard is just able to like out skilling and out destroying the CU robot sides, right? And that's why this sentry health goes so low. We're going to actually see the sentry passes out here. And then NUS just sends their hero in, does a base break back, and repeats that for the second game to take the win and advance on into the next round, essentially here. But CU already showing hit number 2, essentially. And this is before double elimination, keep in mind. So this was an actual elimination match when it really shouldn't have been. CU hits the number 2, essentially here. Loses out sadly, but does amazing. Like comparative to other teams that were going up against NUS, the only other team to get a game off of NUS besides UW was Tamu in this season, right? So crazy on them to be able to do so. Oh, and also Purdue actually did get a game as well, which we'll go into right now. Purdue is the next team that I wanted to talk about a little bit from the 2023 season. Purdue here, already a very established team as well. Like I said, consistent team, places top 6 every year. And this is the year that they introduced us to their dominant balancing standard. But we'll see here, actually, we got there too. This is the double standard strat that Purdue employed during the 2023 season.
To give you an idea of how groundbreaking this was, the only other team at this point who had a balancing standard was Torino, Team Roboto from Politecnico di Torino. And no one else had even attempted to do a balancing standard because it was kind of like, there's not much use, there's not much advantage compared to the effort it takes to develop it. Purdue said, you know what? Screw that. We're going to develop it, and we're going to show you that this thing is a viable solution. And they did. This balancing standard proved to be such a headache. You can see it right now going up against this NUS Sentry. It's not taking a whole lot of damage, but being able to dish out a ton of damage in response. And NUS does not know how to really respond to this at this point. They make an adaptation.
Looking at the health here. We're looking at the health immediately. The Sentry's at 420 health already, and Purdue's balancing standard was able to do most of that without taking much damage back, right? Like being able to basically face a Sentry right in its face and just take out almost 200 health off of it without losing at level 1. Insane for essentially a team to be able to do. And the balancing standard really is what gave it there. Purdue actually here, you'll notice they did level up to level 3 here, right? Which makes them much more powerful as well against the hero and infantry, allowing them to max level in this year, allowing them to get straight up.
Just destroys the NUS standard. The NUS standard that had just destroyed CU in the previous video now gets destroyed by this Purdue standard. You
can't hit them. They got no hitboxes. It's not possible, right? And this is again another thing about these challenger teams that I want to bring up, and you've kind of mentioned on it already, is the engineering innovation, right? These challenger teams aren't afraid to try the new stuff, try insane, all these challenger teams have one thing in common. Their robots look very strange compared to what I would consider the standard typical RoboMaster robot, right?
Fair.
Look at Tambu standard, UW standard, in terms of the mechanical design behind them. Very similar, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You look at Purdue's balancing and CU's hero, tiny hero that just sits on the ground, and also their standards and sentries just circles essentially comparatively, right? Small, robust robots that are able to do this. They're not afraid to go into this engineering challenge with we want to do something unique. We want to really showcase our flair, and it pays off for them, I think, more times than it doesn't. They will get into trouble, as we'll see later, but it pays off more times than it doesn't for them.
There's always a risk whenever you do something new, but the teams that take that risk and can handle the challenges that come with it are often benefiting from it.
Absolutely agree. But so we'll continue through this round. Essentially, we won't spend too much time here, but Purdue actually wins this round. Again, they're on the double standard strat, so it's harder for them to win by base breaking, but they win off time after doing enough damage to the Sentry, after doing enough damage to the base. And then we go into round 2, and we're going to kind of see some of those those technical issues I was discussing a little bit there. I believe it's around here. We'll see that. We'll go ahead and set the scene already. So NUS has started to adapt, as you can see. NUS is starting to take the fight directly to Purdue and take out some of their Sentry health early before Purdue can really get up there and start doing damage. But we see Purdue's strategy. Oh, it's time to start hitting the Sentry. They start bumping into a wall, though, with their balancing standard, and this is that risk, again, that you take whenever you have these kinds of new technologies. And as we skip through here a little bit, Purdue's balancing standard is just a little bit less effective this whole round in general. You know, like the advantage that you get from it just a little bit less usable because the driver isn't totally familiar with it.
Yeah, NUS did a great job adapting. They're protecting their sentry more this round. See, it's only down to 504 health. Mm-hmm. They realized what Purdue's strategy was. They weren't going to let them do the same thing. I think that maybe they implemented a code change as well, because you can see their sentry now spinning whenever it got attacked. So hands down, NUS handled the challenges. They adapted to it, but just the skill expression from both of these teams was definitely impressive.
Oh, absolutely. I think actually we're going to go down to base health here, and then NUS is able to chunk through the hero base. Yeah, so this is what ends up happening here. So when we get to this section right here, I'm gonna go in a little bit slower here. So here we are. You'll notice that the Purdue balancing standard has been knocked out.
It's offline.
It's offline. It has been knocked out of the competition here, and that's kind of the risk you take when you do these kinds of things. Very sad to see. But yeah, so NUS is able to bring it back, and they have a hero, so they're able to chomp through the base health a lot faster than the double standard was able to at any point. And Purdue loses their base here, and then goes on to lose this match overall. But again, very strong showing from Purdue. Again, this is the second place they're playing against, and they play against them as if they would have gotten third or fourth, right? So definitely not a team that I would say doesn't deserve to be at the top four. Just kind of a little bit unlucky bracket. We weren't fully running double elimination yet. Now we're going to go into the 2024 season. And before we hit the 2024 season, Steven, I have to talk about a little bit of controversy. A little bit of controversy that occurred. A little bit of controversy.
Give me the spice.
Interesting. So, Group A in 2024, right? Group A. It's UW, it's UCSD, it's CU, and it's RHIT. And of these four, we figure out something when we're in the commentary booth. I remember me and Preston are talking about this before we get on for commentary, and we're talking like, this can't be possible. This can't be possible. This is crazy. CU has already played all their matches except for one versus UW. RHIT and UCSD are also going to play a match, and CU and RHIT are both both possible to be eliminated depending on the performance of RHIT versus UCSD. They need to do 2 base breaks essentially to win up the amount. They're going to be tied in points for winning. They need to tie up essentially or exceed the overall base health taken from the tournament.
This was one of those
so close.
This was a bizarre tiebreaker, right?
Bizarre tiebreaker. Why were these teams so close is the question everyone was asking, because everyone was going into this tournament going, CU looks like they could be number 2. They're doing incredibly well. They're doing super good. It's actually this match right here, this CU-RHIT match that we're about to watch, that caused them to get so close. That's part of the reason why I wanted to bring it up. Yeah.
I remember this match so well, Shore, because I had the pleasure of commentating this match.
Oh, yeah.
And
it was a very fun match.
Oh, my gosh. I was losing my mind whenever these two were going at it. Mm-hmm. I had personally picked CU to win this whole thing. I had talked to them during the offseason. I had seen some of their designs, and I thought, wow, this team could challenge UW. Not just challenge UW, but take them down. And I was proven right during the practice matches. Yep. CU took a match off of UW in dominant fashion in one of the practice matches.
To be fair, UW did decapitate their hero.
You know what? That's minor detail. Minor detail.
Anyways, going into this match, essentially, the first thing I want to point out is CU actually. So if you watch the sentry right here, as the countdown comes out, immediately the sentry moves and locks on with precision to the other teams. You can even see it shot through. Hold on. Did you see that? It shoots through this hole right here, seeing the blue. Watch this. This is crazy.
CU's
Look
sentry
at the
this
shot
year.
Fired. There. It sees the blue through the curtain. It tries to shoot the sentry on the other side. That's insane. CU's localization crazy in this match.
It was crazy.
Target selecting and just try to destroy them on their side. Comes back, pulls back, and CU can control this manually, which is the craziest part. Like, this sentry essentially can be like remotely waypointed to wherever it needs to go. And is basically like a robot for them to just send out whatever, which we don't see at all essentially in the 2024 season outside of this.
The sentry that CU had and the strategy that they employed with it this year was the best of any team. I'm not ashamed to say that. I think their Sentry was the best performing at its highs. It was the best performing of any Sentry by far. The strategies that they used, the best of any team by far. At its peak, this CU team was looking unstoppable.
Absolutely.
And you can just see what they're doing already. You're not even a minute into the match. The Sentry's almost dead.
And it's the other Sentry fighting. It's not even CU's like main robots doing this. And that's the craziest part about this. The CU Sentry, incredibly powerful, incredibly strong. It was like, again, like I said, they invested in this like more crazy technology essentially to get this working for them, right? And I think that's like the gambit they took that I think really helps them in these kinds of situations, but also I think sometimes will lead them to not necessarily like an overconfidence, but some reliability issues occasionally, as we'll see going into the rest of this tournament. But yeah, CU definitely technology-wise and design-wise, incredibly intelligent team, incredibly good at this kind of the engineering of the competition, and also the driving. They're not like bad at it by any means. Like we'll actually see in this. We'll see, however, though, here as you're currently watching, that RHIT realizes it adapts very quickly. Oh, it's the CU Sentry we have to take out. So the CU Sentry starts to lose a lot of health there, and then there's that critical fault I was talking about, the reliability.
No!
Standard 4's module goes offline.
My heart.
And it's no longer able to really compete in the match, right? Which makes this a 2v3 essentially on CU's side, right? But they're still going strong. You can actually watch the shield on the other side of the base has started to go down because CU's hero not about to lose out on this just because the standard is gone. They're like, we have to try our best to get in and keep in the fight, right? But the level advantage is starting to get crazy because, again, that standard is going to keep on module faulting.
Right.
And CU can't really use the Sentry anymore because it's now gone and took a lot of damage.
They did a good job responding to it, though.
Yeah.
They immediately recognized what happened. They went in with their hero, said, all right, we got to destroy the space as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And here we go now. We see the RHIT team is starting to come back to grips and be like, hold on. The bases of ours is about to get destroyed. We need to stop CU and beat them before they beat us, which they're not going to be able to do in this case. CU does win here, but as we're seeing already, it's that reliability possibility, right? That's the thing that we run into with CU. Reliability becomes a little bit key here. We're going to move to the next match over here, and we'll see again, kind of the same stuff starts out, but you'll notice there is a robot missing on the CU side.
Which one is missing, Shuar?
It's the red standard 4. It's the one that module faulted last game. And very unfortunate for CU. I'm sure that's not what they were hoping for going into this match. But again, now they're sitting at like a 2v3. The Sentry very strong though, so not the worst thing in the world for them. But the problem here now being that their CV, no height rejection algorithm, so starts targeting the base when it's invulnerable. Can't really do much against the RHIT base when it's invulnerable. So it's not really giving them too much offensive pressure here.
It's doing nothing, and it's taking damage. It's taking damage. It's sitting there taking damage.
Sitting there taking damage. And that's kind of how we start to see this all come like fall apart, right? The Sentry does get to heal back though, which is very nice. Very smart play on CU's side. They're like, oh, we have like essentially 1,200 health to work with.
And rewind, Char. Rewind again. There's something else you need to see. And you can kind of see it here, actually. You don't have to rewind, actually. Never mind. I lied. Sorry. Just resume.
All right, we're watching. Resuming.
Check out this hero. Watch how it's moving. Does something seem off about it?
Something seems a little off, Steven. Something seems a little bit off here. Definitely. Something seems a little bit wobbly, maybe. Something seems like it shouldn't be the way that it is. But yeah, so RHT starts to take a little bit of a lead there in terms of just building up a bunch. And also they're waiting on such a rough point. They just got their health bags back.
Now, notice at this point, CU is technically still in the lead. They're technically still in the lead.
CU is in the lead.
One of the key reasons why is because again, going back to the strategy and the software that they put onto this Sentry, and then, like you talked about, how they can direct it around the map using those waypoints, they could tell their Sentry to go back to the resupply zone and heal up, which this year was like, no other teams really did that. I mean,
there's one problem, though. And I don't know if you've noticed yet, but all the CU robots now, offline, CU's hero, not doing so hot, not able to really spin anymore, not able to move very well. The Sentry is not spinning at all. It's just sitting in the reload zone. Sure, it has 1,200 health effectively now, essentially. But it doesn't have infinite health, and it can't really go anywhere, and it's not really doing anything anymore. And this is just like, this is where the problem comes in, right? That's CU Hero, though, doing amazing damage out of nowhere, right? Still able to fight back. It's just not looking the greatest for them.
But
and
notice
this is
also,
kind of like
the RHIT hero just went offline.
yes, it gets very close to the wire. But yeah, so we'll actually skip ahead a little bit here. CU's Sentry still has a ton of health to chonk through just because it's healing. But as you see now, the Sentry on the CU side at 458, RHIT side at 498.
It's not healing. It's not healing
anymore. There's no more healing to be had. The Sentry goes down, and RHIT does base damage and is able to slowly take away CU's chance at basically 2-0ing them and base breaking them both times, which is what ends up costing them in the long run from getting in the top 8. And it was very disappointing. However, I want to highlight 2 things from this match about CU and RHIT, one for each team. CU, incredibly innovative team. We saw some crazy strategies with their Sentry,
100%.
and they're also incredibly adaptable. The minute that they realize that RHIT is targeting their Sentry, the hero body blocks immediately. Says, you're not going to take out our Sentry. We're sending it back to heal. It's coming right back, and it's going to be a nuisance again. And I'm apologizing for it. Not in advance. You're just not getting an apology at all.
It's a forward notice. It's not an apology. They're just
a forward notice. Exactly. On the RHIT side, incredible adaptation from the drivers. They're constantly aware of the game state they're working through. And the robots are reliable is the other thing. In this match, the only robot that RHIT had that went down for module fault or for any kind of overpower was the hero. The Standard, incredibly solid at what it was doing. The Sentry stayed alive, did what it needed to do, and it kept them in the lead essentially the whole time, right? Which is kind of interesting that it's like almost the Achilles heels of each other, right? They both have the opposite problem, essentially, in my opinion, which is kind of why I wanted to show this match. I think it's a very interesting match to see like where the challengers rank amongst each other. We haven't talked about Purdue this year yet. Sorry, yes, continue, Steven.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that this was RHIT's first year competing back in RMNA.
First year competing as their own team in the full RoboMaster competition, right? Which we'll get to the Midwest in a second.
In hindsight, it's like, you look back at it and you're like, okay, they were a pretty good team. But at the moment, this was like unheard of. This was basically, I don't know, I'm going to pick on some random team. This was Montana taking down UW, right? This was like, this shouldn't have happened.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't expected at all for that to be that close. CU was expected to just dominate there, go in as second or first from their group, and just continue forward. Anyways, moving forward, Tamu and Purdue. We're going to go back to Purdue for a second, then we'll come back to CU and RHIT. But I wanted to talk about Purdue this year, mainly because there's a very soft spot in my heart for Purdue. Especially given this year's... Their Ducks, no. I was not a big fan of the Ducks necessarily, but I do love their balancing standard. And this year's balancing standard they built was a leg balancing standard. Which we'll see the benefits of in this match, actually. But this is in the group stage as well, Tamu versus Purdue. And we'll see Purdue's balancing standard here. You'll see it's a little bit unique compared to last year's. It's no longer the rigid inverted pendulum design. It is now on legs, and it does some more active balancing, essentially, as opposed to like the passive pendulum design. But it looks very freaky and cool. I absolutely was in love with this design when I saw it. And then I saw it actually fight back. So you'll see actually both Sentries made it to the center of the field on Purdue and Tamu's side, which I thought was hilarious. Purdue also able to make their Sentry move. But they're not really looking at each other or fighting each other. They're just kind of spinning around. I'm not sure if Tamu's Sentry is trying to fire. I think it's jammed at this moment. Purdue Sentry does realize now that it's next to Tamu's Sentry. It just starts going straight into it. Tamu's Sentry stuck there. But yeah, Tamu Sentry was a little bit out of commission here, essentially, which gives them a bit of a playing on the back foot. But Purdue knows how to capitalize on this. That's the one thing about Purdue is they have exceptional strategy when it comes down to it. So we're going to continue forward into this match a little bit. The Sentry is now down, and we're going to see some fun stuff from both standards here are taking this long fire shot. Purdue, essentially, you have to come up to them on this side to hit their standard, right? It comes in, rams into the Tamu standard. Takes on this Tamu hero as well. Blue team goes in to go take out their base essentially ahead of time. Tamu's like, oh, we can't let them get the base rush on us because if we don't hit their base first, they will eventually overpower us. But we have the hero advantage here. And Purdue just plays kind of a solid game from here on out versus Tamu. However, I think, so we'll see here. They keep on their base racing essentially here with Tamu's hero not really getting involved, which is the interesting part here. Tamu's hero not able to really. If Tamu's hero gets essentially online or gets to the base, Purdue knows it's over.
It's
right?
the Achilles heel.
There's no winning at that point.
It's the Achilles heel of Tamu every year since 2021, and that is a non-functional hero. And time again, you've seen it. Some teams like Purdue, right here, they don't have a hero. I don't think NYU has ever had a hero. Other teams, Polytechnical di Torino, Team Roboto, no hero, but they fill 2 standards, and those standards can do a lot of work. But if the Tamu hero doesn't work, why do they keep fielding it?
From chat, if Tamu's hero does insert thing here, they win every single year. So this is the fun part about this balancing standard that I wanted to bring up. So again, they know their win condition here. They can't let that hero start firing at the base, so they just stance up. They go just like that, and they stance up in front of the base with his leg robot to block it. No armor panels exposed, and I remember seeing this for the first time. I think it was this match actually that I saw this for the first time, and I was commentating, and I was going, is that legal? Can you just stand in front of the base essentially?
You know what this reminded me of?
Goes in, starts doing damage.
You know what this reminded me of, Shuar? This reminded me of that one RMUC match back in China.
Yeah.
When the engineer, it was SJTU versus I think who was it? It was TDT. It was TDT versus SJTU. Very famous match, right? TDT's drone was ridiculous that year. This match was so close. But really quick, the TDT drone was doing ridiculous things, just super long range accuracy, deleting bases left and right.
Yeah.
And the SJTU engineer tries to pick up a mineral block, lift it over its head to block the drone from shooting the base. That's what this reminded me of here. The standard just going up on its legs saying, no, I'm not going to let you. I'm putting my body on the line.
I just think it's so funny to see this. Like, he's just stanced up over there. I love the Purdue the Purdue balancing standard for that reason.
We've seen robots we've seen robots try to get in the way, right? Not to this extent. This was
not to that extent at all.
You can't go
kind of a funny little production mistake we made here. That is CU, by the way, at the bottom right, not Purdue. That popped up as the team here, which I think is very funny. Just to call us out a little bit on that. Anyways, moving into the next game with Purdue and Tamu, we're going to see here that it goes a little bit differently overall, a little bit faster of a game here. Tamu Sentry immediately knocks its light bar off, as you can see, runs into the wall again. Maybe not the best time to test in production, but it happens sometimes. Both sentries go offline, though. You'll notice both sentries go offline. Tamu is able to kill Purdue sentry before their own sentry is module faulted and ejected, and starts to deal that damage immediately. They realize that the Achilles heel of the double standard strat is that they have a hero and they can just go to the base. Their standard, again, Tamu's standard, incredibly powerful, incredibly strong, keeps them up there every year. Starts chunking through the base health, already at max level, and it just becomes a little bit harder for Purdue to win because, again, you don't have a hero to really make up the deficit anymore.
And it really showcases the strength. I know we love to clown on Tamu sometimes, sometimes all the time. Yes, I understand.
Yeah.
But Tamu does do one thing really well, for the most part, and that is adaptation. They find a way. They find a way to do it, whatever it is. The hero's not working. We're going to dump 300 ammo into our standard that we know is working and just power through your base.
I wanted to point out this move real quick because I thought this was really good on Tamu's side. So we'll see Purdue gets in the way. They move around on the left side. Purdue slowly gets in the way immediately on the right side. It was instant reaction, instant adaptation from the standard driver on Tamu's side. I'm genuinely incredibly impressed, right? Like Purdue is clearly trying their best here, and the Tamu standard is making it just hard enough. 80 strafing in real life, and it's so smooth, so well done that I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And this is how Tamu wins a 1v2 essentially, or really a 1v3 because the Purdue sentry was working. It just lost against the standard pretty quickly. A 1v3 essentially because the Tamu hero is also module faulting and not able to live anymore. But yeah, so that's the important part of this match. Oh yeah, it loses a little bit there. It's not able to really keep itself online. Yep, there we go again. That's it going out again. But yeah, so that's the interesting part about this match is that Purdue does very well, but Tamu, the standard, the adaptation, just even crazier, right? And when you don't have a hero, again, when you take these risks, you go for a double standard strat, you have this crazy balancing, and you're not really going aggressive with it. You're going to end up losing to these like incredibly again, top 4 teams that have a lot of experience, know how to play around these issues, know how to play around this stuff pretty quickly. And Tamu takes this round, allowing them to advance forward, a higher seed than Purdue. But yeah, moving forward, we're going to talk about Purdue a little bit more, and then we're going to talk about RHIT one more time, and then we're going to come back to my favorite Purdue save of all time, and then we'll watch one more CU match, and we'll be ready to talk to chat about their narratives and questions. But we'll make this one a little bit quicker. This is Purdue versus U of A. This happens in eliminations, and I thought this was a very fun match to watch, just for the fact that Purdue does really, really well in this match, and it's kind of to showcase why this cohort, this challenger cohort, even in the top 8, I think are exceptional compared to other people who made it into top 8. Right?
And quick note, Alberta this year, no slouch. They made it to the top 8.
No slouch at all. Made it to top 8, incredibly consistent team, doing well. You'll notice the key difference here, though. Already Purdue is at their century doing damage. The Alberta hero taking a little bit of time to get out, right? Which is something we saw pretty commonly amongst teams, was that they struggled over this bump, right? That was what really gatekept, I feel like, teams from being able to consistently play into the match fast. The rollout just a little bit slower. Purdue's rollout incredibly fast comparably. And that's really showcasing what I think is the hallmark difference between the challengers and the cream of the crop, in my opinion, or everyone else in this case, right?
Yeah.
Alberta, though, however, does get out finally, is ready to go, is ready to finally showcase that they're in the game, they're in the match finally. However, it's a little too late. Purdue's already capitalized, they've taken out the Sentry, and they're ready to just play defense, essentially, if they have to, for the rest of this game. They won't play defense. They will try and do a little bit more damage here, take a little bit more of a level advantage here. You'll see the Purdue standard getting some health in and getting some level ups, and finally leveling up to level 10. Alberta's trying to fight back, but it's just too late already, right? Purdue knew how to capitalize immediately, and they win this match pretty handedly. If we scroll up to the end, you'll see they start doing damage to the base. It's more of the same. Rushing through this because it's not that interesting to watch the rest of it. The silver lining of only having one strong, reliable robot is knowing you have what you have and being able to pretty much train that situation ahead of time. I think that's very fair on the Tamu side. Again, I'm personally a Tamu enjoyer. I'm from Texas originally, just in case nobody knew. And so I enjoy Tamu. I enjoy UT Austin. I enjoy all of our Texas teams a lot. I do think it's good to have more than one robot as your linchpin strategy, though. I think it's good to plan. I like to, not to quote One Piece here, but who plans on their own death, right? Like, I think it's personally a good idea to make sure all your robots are to plan with the best case scenario in mind, to be ready for the worst, which I think is fair, that you guys are ready for the worst. But yeah, so that's kind of what I was pointing out here with Purdue. Purdue is able to just kind of run in, and they capitalize on weakness immediately, which is the hallmark of a top 4 team, while being a little bit more unique in that challenger fashion that I would expect, right? Anyways, moving on from this match, we'll now go into NUU versus RHIT. Nagoya was another team that I considered putting in this challengers section. However, I can't speak too much about them because I just don't have enough insight into their own development. Again, the other 3 teams here I talk a lot to. I mentor CU, for example. I talk to Purdue's team a decent amount. I've talked to RHIT a little bit, and they're also in our they're showing us stuff all the time, and I've seen them at the Midwest as well. So I'm more familiar with their capabilities, a little less familiar with Nagoya's overall.
They are a very interesting team. I've had the personal pleasure of getting to know some of their members. I just had a trip to Japan recently. I tried to hook up with some of them, get to see what they were working on. And something that is important to note here is that Nagoya is actually a union team, right? So we've seen this a couple times in previous RMNAs where, in 2022, you had RHIT, UT, and Purdue all team up together to field a 3v3 team, right? They each brought one robot. Well, NUU is kind of similar. They are a combination of several different universities in the Nagoya region that helps work together to develop the robots for this fleet. So there are some limitations with that, as I'm sure you're probably aware. It's like it's hard to develop something cohesively when you're spread apart physically, right? And to their credit, Nagoya does a great job. And I think they've, in 2022 and 2023, and then last year in 2024, they fielded some pretty competent teams. They're a solid middle of the pack team. They're almost there. They're kind of like at that cusp. I would say they're maybe a couple more years, maybe 1 or 2 years away from reaching that challengers tier of teams.
Yeah.
But they're doing a good job. They just got a little bit more to go. And a lot of that is because, it's a combination team. And you got a whole lot of students that you're trying to work together from different schools. That's hard.
Absolutely. I agree. We are actually going to see them do pretty well in this match, however, versus RHIT here. And that's kind of like one of the things I also want to show is that like the challengers aren't so far removed from everyone else to be considered in my. This is what keeps them from the top 4 in my mind still, is that there's always that team that sneaks in and grabs them, right? And just kind of like is able to really hit them in. So this is RHIT, for example, one of the challengers versus NUU. And this match, incredibly close, even out the gate. You're already seeing both teams are able to come out of their lineup pretty fast. They're both running a standard hero, very comparable. And like their robot lineup, their robot driver skill, where they're going, what their priorities are, what the actual strategy is here. RHIT, however, does secure the center, which is really strong, as we were talking about 2023 last week. Or last 2 weeks, I guess. We talked about this already. The 2023 was if you can control the center, you get the blood bags, you control the HP, you can snowball a lot faster, right? It doesn't matter, though, until the buff point comes out, which is just now open. And both teams are a little bit hesitant to get over there. They're kind of thinking more about the overall Sentry objective at the moment. And NUU is currently going for that, taking out RHT Sentry a little bit. I'm just live commentating at this point. I hope that that's enjoyable for the audience here. But yeah, so
you're taking us back. This is a bit of a throwback.
I'm just realizing that I'm just live commentating this. We'll skip through a little bit here, but we'll see actually that the first blood goes to RHIT over here. They're able to knock out the infantry, and that kind of brings them into the match essentially. That allows them to start actually doing some good damage to the base. That allows them to start doing some good damage to the Sentry as well if they wanted to, and they have that hero ready on deck for that. But yeah, so here we'll see that they're both out of blood bags. No one's really taking the center anymore. RHT used both blood bags already that they got. The RHT Sentry goes down, however, NUU is still up at this time, and NUU starts to pound through the base over here. Very close game, like I said. And this is kind of, again, what I'm like interested in talking about when it comes to NUU specifically. They're kind of like this outlier in that challenger section where I'm like, they could definitely be considered here possibly, as I feel like they're able to take on RHIT. They're able to take on other teams as well. They're in the top. But occasionally they have that falter, right? And occasionally they're not able to make it fully as I would expect them to. But they do beat RHIT here, which is very, very, I just want to bring out as well. And which is why I think that like the challengers team is overall not quite at the level yet of the top 4. Although I expect them to be much closer this year specifically.
I mean, I think that's a fair assessment because you've got, if you were to, say, rank the Challengers team, would I be wrong in saying that you would have CU at the top?
Yes, I would say if I had to do a ranking, this is why I have this whiteboard. Of the Challengers teams, I would say my top 1 is CU. I definitely have no biases when I come to that. Number 2 is probably Purdue. And number 3 is RHIT. And within that. But I expect this to change this year. For sure.
But I think it goes to show that we saw RHIT was able to take a match off of CU.
Yeah.
And RHIT has looked competitive in a lot of other matches. So they're really, it's like these are the teams that we think, and here's what I think we need to clarify. We're not saying these teams are 100% the next best things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But we think that they have the potential to be the next best.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. Anyways, before we continue into, I want to talk to chat a little bit, ask them their opinions and stuff. But I wanted to kind of give a little bit of a heartfelt speech here about narratives and finish off this like slideshow section of the podcast before we head into a more like podcasty style discussing stuff that we think we're going to see this year, etc. My question to the chat is, have I convinced you? And your answer and my answer personally is that it doesn't really matter, right? The reason that I wanted to bring all this up, the reason that I'm bringing these videos up, these old rivalries, I'm trying to stoke the flames a little bit. I'm talking about this like narrative essentially here, right? Is it because I think this is the only way to view RoboMaster or RoboMaster NA even, right? Or the storylines in RoboMaster NA. However, like I was saying before, right? Verstappen versus Norris, HBox versus Armada, any esport you've ever watched, any sport you've ever watched even, right? These things are more interesting when you have some background, some context, some narrative that goes on, the through line that connects all these teams together. right? And that's why I want to propose this as the possible narrative for RMNA 2025. It's the one that I'm running with on commentary. It's the one I've personally seen. Steven, I don't know if I've convinced you personally to run this with me on commentary and talk about this, bring this up stats-wise, etc.
I think there wasn't a whole lot of convincing to do. You and I think we share a lot of opinions.
I think we agree.
I think we share a lot of opinions. The
right.
only thing that I will say is that I do think there is one team that is in danger of falling out, and that is Tamu. And I think Tamu. This is the last time I'm going to do it.
I would love to see it.
This is the last.
Before you get into that, let me finish this heartfelt thing, and then we'll get into 2025.
Okay.
I do want to talk about where this goes, right? My point being, this is the current narrative. This is how I see it personally. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to tell. You could disagree. In fact, I want to hear your disagreements. Tell me in chat. Let's talk about it. We'll go through your questions about this. We'll go through your ideas on this, and let's build up a narrative as RMNA, as a community together, that when we look back on in a year, we can write up like a nice paragraph. We can make some videos about it. We can make some content about this essentially together as a community.
Really quick.
Post this around, ship this to your sponsors, etc., and really get them into why we care about RMNA so much. As an alumni of the teams, as an alumni of NYU specifically, as an alumni of the competition, as someone who now helps run the competition, who is interested in commentating it, who's seen all you guys grow, who has grown myself in RoboMaster. I think that's what makes this so interesting from an outside perspective of someone who's not competing anymore, right? Steven, do you have anything to add to that?
No. I was just going to say, we did get one comment. I believe in CU and RHIT. Surprised to see NYU not up there since, if I remember correctly, they did pretty well last comp.
Yeah, so
NYU didn't do too well last year.
NYU is a tricky case.
They did well in 22 or 23. They did well in 23.
In 2021, they got third place. In 2022, they got fifth. In 2023, they got fifth. And very solid performances. 2024, however, I think they just ended up not being their year, essentially. They got last place. And so they were able to only compete one time last year in all the 3v3 matches, which was very unfortunate to see from that team.
There were some engineering decisions made. There were some.
It was mostly some rules issues. It's again why you should read the rules. It's important to do that. It happens though to every team occasionally. These things happen, and so that's why I wouldn't feel comfortable right now putting them into that challenger spot. However,
I'm not going to dog on them though.
I would not be against if they got there. I'd be very happy actually. I'd be like, that's my old team. Like I would keep a very large banner of NYU up on the screen if I could for that. But yeah, let's look at some more comments here. In any successful sport, storylines are everything. At the end of the day, if you are broadcasting something with the intention of having people watch it, inherently becomes an entertainment product. In that pursuit, narratives are everything. I entirely agree. It's very succinctly said, actually, Colonel John. I feel like you have completely taken my point and distilled it into a very nice paragraph that I'm going to steal from you and claim as mine going forward. Because I'm going to just recite
copyrighting
it immediately. You've now turned it into content for me. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. But yes, chat, I want to know your thoughts. I want to know what you're thinking when it comes down to narratives, in RMNA. Are there any we missed that you want to talk about? Are there any that you're interested in us discussing? Please put them in the chat. Steven, for you specifically, I have a question. You were kind of starting on this. This is the narrative I have set up going into 2025. What do you think happens at 2025? What do you think happens given this narrative?
Two things.
Well, I'll bring up the pillar. Bring up the blocks, if you will.
All right. Two things, I think, primarily. One, if CU does not come out swinging, ready to win, then something is seriously wrong at CU, right? I think CU showcased last year that they have every right to be in the top 4 with UW, VT, NUS, TAMU. TAMU. I think they have every right at their peaks. If they can just get that consistency down, I think they will be absolutely championship caliber. Yeah. Second, I think you're going to see a lot of new teams taking some matches off of these higher teams. Not necessarily winning, right? I shouldn't say matches, taking some games off of these higher teams, right? Or at least making them work for it. We've reached the point now in RMNA, and I'm so happy about this. We've reached the point where teams are entering into RMNA, and there is so much community support and involvement helping them get off the ground that they're coming into competition doing things that some of the teams weren't doing in 2021, right? Spinning and shooting at the same time, that was just UW and VT.
This is a bit of a spoiler for our future podcast about this third section, cream of the crop. But I'm thinking teams like SFU. I'm thinking teams like McMaster. I'm thinking teams like U of A, for example, which we covered them a little bit here, but they're really in that cream of the crop section. Yeah.
There's so many new teams, as well as you're getting so many teams just joining RMNA. Spoiler, this is going to be the biggest RMNA that we've had. Maybe it's not that surprising. We've been growing every year, but
every year is the biggest RMNA we've ever had because every year is a little bit bigger.
Right, but we've got 30 teams coming this year, man. It's going to be crazy, and a lot of these are going to be new teams. They're going to have the struggles, right? I'm not expecting everyone to just come out and all these new teams to just perform flawlessly. That would be exaggerating. But I do think that you're going to see maybe, a TAMU drop a game here or there, a Purdue drop a game, CU, NUS maybe drop a game that you don't expect to happen because, it's robotics. There's issues that come up even for the top teams. I can't count the number of times that I have seen VT or UW in their pits freaking out because something's not working the way it was supposed to, right?
Reminds me actually of the UW. I think it was UW versus NUS actually, that first match. The first unspoken game that happened, right?
Yes.
Where UW Century bashed into their backwards wall, right? Stuff like that happens even to the strongest of teams, right? It doesn't happen as consistently though. And that's kind of the point we have with this challenger versus the top four. The top four, they'll make mistakes. The mistakes just aren't nearly as costly, though, as they are for the challengers, as we saw in that CU versus RHIT match. But I agree with you. I think that making mistakes in general is going to become more and more costly as time goes on. And these newer teams are starting at a higher and higher level than they were in 2021, 2022, 2023. Even so much as last year, I would not be shocked if we see some teams that come out first year and are just like significantly better than we would have seen in 2023. Right?
I agree. And one other thing that I'm going to say, and I know I said two things, but I'm going to add a third in there. The third thing, I think that this year, the thing that makes or breaks a team is going to be computer vision and driver skill. And there's a reason for this because this year there's no bases, right? The win conditions have changed. Now it's all about that robot to robot combat, right? That robot to robot combat. And the teams that have good drivers, like I'm thinking NUS, I'm thinking TAMU, or the teams that have great CV, I'm thinking UW, right? Yeah. Those teams are going to have an easier time navigating the field than other teams that, have relied on just, all right, if we can just get one kill, we can maybe, I'm not criticizing VT, right? But VT is known for get one kill, rush the base, chunk through the virtual shield, it's dead. All right, what are you going to do now when you've got to chase a robot that's moving around, right? You can't just chunk through a base and win. You got to be able to track that enemy robot, follow them around the field, navigate. I think it's going to be harder for teams to adapt that don't have either great drivers or great CV.
I would agree. I would 100% agree, Steven. I think you're completely right. Christian, you're also welcome to cut this this screen share if you would like to, just so we don't have we can focus on mine and Steven's face going forward. Marky 4 Numbers asks in chat, was SFU's first year? It doesn't feel like it, right? They were doing amazing for a first year team, but it was their first year.
They took a match off Purdue. They took a match off Purdue.
They did really well. They did incredibly well for a first year. Absolutely.
Very, very strong team. I think there's a lot of potential for SFU. I've talked to Edison, their team captain. He's a very close acquaintance of mine, and they're cooking up some stuff. I'm not sure they may be burning the kitchen, but they're going to be cooking in it.
We'll see. That jet engine was very funny. I'll give them that. I did think it was hilarious. The jet engine reveal. Oh yeah. Speaking of reveals. Last week, I asked teams to send me some stuff, send me some leaks, send me some interesting things. So far, I've gotten none.
Oh.
Where are you guys at? What happened? Got nothing to show? I come over here, I watch these old videos, I talk how highly I'm excited about your guys' teams. You got nothing to show me? You're going to make Papa Shar sad?
Shawar, something that I learned last year was that teams oftentimes will say that they don't want to leak anything. They don't want to leak anything, right? They don't want to give an advantage. What I have learned, though, is that is code for we're still building it.
That is also fair. I do actually have to take that back. Marky did send me something. I did get Python logging script from Marky, and that was interesting to read. I did actually enjoy that. It's not something I think that I will show because it's not very like immediately obvious. I feel like the team is, but I believe that this might be a leak, and if I apologize in advance. I believe we're trying to open source it a little bit. Is what Marky told me. Trying to open source some logging utility for RoboMaster.
Can you give us a high level? Can you give us a high level of what it is?
High level, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's logging utility from your referee system, from different kinds of logging utility, like logging stuff that you would want to do from like power limiting, etc. And it's kind of like a built-in open source logging solution for the RoboMaster competition, right? To my understanding, this is a UW feature that they want to possibly share with the rest of RMNA as they clean it up a little bit more. If that's not the case, I apologize in advance for saying that and then making them now feel obligated to do so if they haven't already.
Brought to you by Shawar.
My bad, everyone. But yeah, I think it's very interesting, stuff like that. Other things I think that we're going to see in 2025. I want to hear, we kind of did this last year to closer to competition, but I kind of want to start talking about this now. What's your prediction for bracket? Your top 8, essentially, currently. Given nothing else except for who the list is, what we saw from last year, what's your top 8?
Well, I think that's going to depend a lot on the groups this year because there are so many teams competing. I think there's a lot more room for parity this year. But if I had to give you, a rough and dirty top 8, I'm going to go ahead and say, and this is going to be not numbered, not ranked. This is just my top 8.
No ranking, just the top
UW,
8.
UW obviously, VT, NUS, Purdue, Texas A&M. I'm also throwing in RHIT.
Okay.
And then I'm throwing in the University of Alberta again.
Okay.
And then my final one in there. Oh,
I feel like you're missing one obvious. I'm kind of shocked actually.
It's I want to say I think I know which one that you think I'm thinking, but I gotta go with my heart. McMaster.
Really? No CU?
I think CU has a chance, but they rubbed me wrong last year, okay? This is your punishment, CU. This is what happens when I put my faith in you and you don't deliver. You get out of my top 8. No, not until you prove to me this year that you can get up there again and not have a meltdown. No. And don't think...
It wasn't even that bad.
Tamu,
they just got a little unlucky.
Tamu, you're on notice as well. If you don't perform this year, you're out of my top 8.
I think that's such a high like punishment to kick them out of your top 8 just because they performed a little bit poorer than expected. Can we actually talk about this a little bit in terms of the CU not being in the top 8 for this year? If they're bringing in even like you said, if they bring in a little bit more reliability and come in swinging with the exact same amount of like highs they were hitting last year, what a death bracket for anyone who's in the same group with them. They're guaranteed to be in a group with a top 1 and a top 4 and a top 8 team, right?
This is
like, I think that's horrifying. If you're a new team and you get placed up against, like, it's very possible for you to be placed in a UW, Purdue, CU group, right? As the 4th and the 5th people. That's horrifying. If I'm any team, I am praying to God I'm not in that bracket because it totally could happen, right? We even saw last year, RHIT, CU, UW was one, right? That could totally happen again, for example. There's a lot of ways that this could go that sound terrifying to me, just because CU wasn't in that top 8.
I think it's going to be one of those things where it's like you're looking at the teams in your bracket, and you just have to say, listen, we just got to compete, right? There are so many ways that we've seen it. CU losing to RHIT, right? That wasn't expected. Tamu losing a match to Purdue, I don't think was expected, and having close matches against SFU, not expected, right? These teams aren't invincible. Yes, they are giants, I would think, and they're scary, but they're not invincible. And like I'm saying, reliability is going to be a factor this year, but the teams that have good drivers and good CV, I think is going to be very critical. And something important, because teams also this year are forced to field a hero. So I think you may have, so to your point, if I had to pick a team to swap out, I would say I would pick Purdue because Purdue hasn't built a hero. And this year you have to field a hero.
You are required to field a hero this year. That is true.
CU has a hero, TAMU has a hero, and US has a hero. All those other teams in my top 8, they have heroes, right? So they've got experience, right? They can improve upon those. This is going to be Purdue's first year building a hero. And, maybe they have some struggle with it. Maybe it's, a little bit rough around the edges. Maybe they don't get as far. So if I had to throw CU in, though you're still on my naughty list, if I had to throw them in, they're taking Purdue's spot just because Purdue hasn't built a hero.
Interesting. Okay. I can totally see that. I'm looking at the team list right now just because I was curious of who is attending. And I'm gonna throw my top 8 first. You're getting called a hater in chat, Steven. The TAMU guys think that you're a hater. CU now thinks you're a hater. I don't know.
I am a hater. But it's not my fault. Y'all wronged me. I'm just the scorned girlfriend in this scenario.
Personally. I personally believe in CU. Yes, we believe in CU. I believe in CU personally. I think CU is going to do great this year. I think that all they need to do is solve the reliability, and they are a top 2 team in my mind, right? Speaking of top 8, in my opinion.
Yeah, let me hear yours.
CU is going to Midwest. Oh, let's talk about Midwest a little bit, actually, because that's going to be interesting. We will know in 2 weeks. Midwest, some discussion about that. Ooh. The reason why we put RHIT in the Challengers, even though they've only competed 1 year, so they don't totally fit the criteria, is that their Midwest performance has always been pretty solid. Even in 2023, it was solid. 2024, we saw it was solid, and it kind of converted to RMNA as well. And I expect to see them do well as well next year. There's actually kind of an interesting thing about the Midwest is that the Challenger teams are all going to be present in 2 weeks at Midwest. You got Purdue, who's hosting it. RHIT will be there. CU will be there. So we'll get to see directly how they compare against each other, and one of the top 4 teams being VT. It'll be very interesting to see. It'll be tons of fun, actually.
Purdue, if you're in the chat, I want y'all to stream this. Please stream this.
I was going to say, to Purdue.
Talk to us. Message us. Message us. If you're from Purdue, if you're in the chat, message us. We will work with you to get this on stream.
Not only on stream, I am totally down to commentate it live as well. If you guys wanted some commentary, I'm excited to. We can actually get some of our commentary team on it as well. Get some AV help if you guys would like that. I want to support our grassroots Purdue at Midwest competition as a commentator. I think it'd be very interesting to get them more help on the AV side. Oh yeah, and also we need to start saving their VODs because I've tried to look for the Midwest VODs, realizing none of us saved it, and that was kind of an L on our part. Purdue, if you're in chat, do any of you have the VODs from the last 2 years of Midwest? Any videos at all? I'm sure they're not in chat is the issue. I think we're speaking to a wall here. Anyways, moving back to the top 8 that I was discussing. Here's my personal belief. I'm going to go with top 4 first. I think the top 4 is going to be a combination of CU, UW, VT, and US, right? I think the rest of the top 8 is going to be Purdue, TAMU. Who else would I put here? Kind of a crazy pick. I think UT Austin. Okay.
Ooh, okay.
I think UT Austin. I think we're forgetting UT Austin. I think we're forgetting UT Austin and SFU. Those are my top 8 picks. That's my top 8 person. Hater. What did I do? Who am I hating on this time? I don't hate on anyone. I try not to. The chat's calling me a hater now too. It's so over.
Now you know how
I don't love Nagoya. I do love Nagoya. I think they'll do great as well. I just think that we'll see more engineering. What is it called? More engineering expansion from the other teams faster than Nagoya. Where RHIT, hey guys, you guys can prove me wrong. I'm just saying what I'm thinking I'm going to see. I think RHIT has a very solid chance as well of making it in there. That's the best part about this competition, the 2025 season. I'm just going to list out teams I think could make it the top 8, and I wouldn't be shocked, right? You've got CU, you've got UW, you've got TAMU, you have SFU, you have VT, you have RHIT, you have Purdue. Who else do you have? Who else am I missing? Who else do we talk about? You have Nagoya, for example. Obviously, NUS, right? Am I missing anyone, Steven? Immediately CU, UW, TAMU, SFU, VT, RHIT, Purdue, Nagoya, NUS. Who else did you say, Steven? I've completely forgotten.
I said Alberta.
Alberta, for example, they've made it as well before. Just out of sheer they've UT Austin as well, right? Totally willing to put UT Austin. By the way, UTA is UT Arlington and UT is UT Austin. keep that in mind going forward, because UTA is now actually competing as well.
This year
is a team with us now.
To prevent the confusion, this year we're going to be calling the teams by their actual team names. So it's going to be Aimbots, Roboto, UT Austin, I think, is Error 404. It's hilarious. I love that name.
Something straight like that. Yep.
UT is Stampede. So we're not going to use the university names. We're going to use the team names just to make sure we're not stepping on, because I think there's like 3 University of Washingtons now. There
is Wustel, there's UW, and there is a third one. Who's the third one again? It's a newer one. University of Wisconsin-Madison, right?
Yeah, there's too many UWs now.
UMN, University of
Minnesota.
Yep, UW-Madison. Minnesota as well is up there. Did I miss anyone here? Did I not write down VT? I did write down VT.
You wrote down VT.
I think these 11 teams here that I've written down. These teams, CU, UW, TAMU, SFU, VT, RHIT, Purdue, Nagoya, NUS, U of A, and UT, all have chances to make it in the top 8, right? Yeah. And of top 4, I will highlight them with a new color. I love colors. I got an expo mark. I got so many expo marks. I got a whole drawer of them.
Now, there is another team that I would like to bring up. And I think we need to probably start wrapping up here because we're getting a little bit late. I'm talking for an hour. But there is another team, and it's from the 1v1 side. Queens Knights. They are an old RMNA team, right? They competed back in RMUC.
Oh, they're coming to 3v3 this year. They've registered for it. Yeah.
They're coming to the 3v3. They had a really strong performance in the 1v1 tournament. And so I would be very excited to see them show up to 3v3 and knock a few heads around.
Sure. We'll throw them in as the black horse this year. They're our dark horse for this year. Cool. Queens is a dark horse. There we go. There's the 12 teams I think could make it into top 8. And of these teams, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them in my mind could be top 4. So that's why I'm saying this is an incredibly difficult year in my mind to predict, because genuinely, I don't know anymore. I don't know.
Let's do a quick thought experiment. I want to do a quick thought experiment, right? Of those teams that you've got on your board, who do you think are the top 3 drivers? Put a little D by their name.
Top 3 drivers. All right, new color.
This is what I think is going to be the defining factor this year, right? Okay. Drivers and CV. So put a little D. I'm going to say NUS top tier drivers. I don't think that's debatable. Right, I'm also going to say TAMU. Yeah.
I agree with TAMU and UW. Those are my top 3 drivers. UW's team, amazing drivers. We've known this. Their standard and hero are very good. Very solid game sense. We've seen it last week. I don't need to go back into it. I would say those are my 3 picks for the top 3 drivers. You know what?
I'm going to disagree. I'm going to switch out UW. In my list, I'm going to switch out UW for VT. That's my personal opinion.
Interesting.
I think VT has better drivers than UW.
It's too hard.
Call me a hater, chat. Call me a hater. Do it. I dare you.
It's too hard, man. It's too hard to predict anymore. Everyone's gotten so good. I'm so happy that we as a community have gotten to a level where we're all so good. I can see a world where the meta for the current format is so different from previous years that the large portion of the team hierarchy gets turned upside down from previous years. That's why I think as well that no one has played this version of RoboMaster before. It's completely new. Team deathmatch, capture the point, right? On top of that, the field completely different, right? We have no clue how any of these robots that were designed for flat surfaces are going to work going forward, right? Teams that put RMUC, for example, in their brains while they were designing, maybe they already have an automatic advantage playing this game, right? And so I think that I agree. Like the format and the map has changed so much that any of these 12 teams could make it, and also none of these 12 teams could make it. And I would be like, you know what? That's just the way the cookies crumble. The format's changed. Everything is different, right?
Who knows? Who knows, man?
Who knows anymore, right? Anyways, chat, I think it's about time for us to start signing off. Steven, do you have any last comments before we go? And then I'll start closing us out.
Not really, man. It's been a pleasure. So excited to get the season back underway. Get these podcasts, almost twice, every 2-week podcast, whatever we're doing, every other week. I'm enjoying talking about this. This gets me excited, right? I love discussing all the technical details. Which team is working on the newest technology? Which features are you bringing into this year's competition that's going to just break the game? Are we going to have another Colorado with their standard popping up like Cobra style over the barriers, peeking you? Like, what new things are we going to see this year, right? We know there's some changes coming to the balancing standard, right? There's some nerfs. You know, you're going to have the balancing standards are going to have 4 armor panels. So it's like, all right, you can't just turn yourself sideways and become invincible anymore. So it's like, all right, teams that make use of it, like, you know, Torino, Purdue, it's like, how are y'all going to adapt, right? You got to design something new now. The teams that, you know, had those big clunky heroes, I'm thinking, you know, Nagoya had a pretty big hero. Who else is a big hero? I think Alberta had a pretty big hero. Tamu, I would say, even has had a pretty clunky hero in the past.
Pretty tall hero on their side.
Yeah. It's like, do those designs change now? Because it's like, you're not just trying to stand right up to the base. You're trying to, you know, navigate, maybe a little bit more agile. You know, I think VT has a really agile hero. They may be set up pretty well for the future. So there's a lot of things changing. I can't wait to see what's going on. I can't wait to talk about it as we go forward this season with these podcast episodes. Got some fun, exciting things planned for y'all. I hope you all keep your eye out. We got some fun videos planned. So, yeah, keep tuning in. We'd love to have you all here.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we go, I got 3 requests of you guys. Tune back in 2 weeks exactly. We're going to be running these every 2 weeks around the exact same time. So 2 weeks from now, tune back in. Watch us again. For those of you watching on YouTube, because we should post this to YouTube, like and subscribe. For those of you who are watching on Twitch, gift us your Prime sub if you have the ability. We would encourage that. It makes a little bit of contribution for us. Makes running the competition a little bit easier. And if you can't, just please follow us. Make sure that you're keeping us in those socials, etc. And my last request, I'll say this every time. Get in my DMs. Show me some cool stuff. Let me talk about your team. Let me brag about you guys. Please, I want to brag about you. I want to talk to you guys about. I want to talk to you about your designs. Ask for our advice. We're all alumni who want to be there for you. We work in industry. I work in the robotics industry, for example. Give us your stuff. Let me see it. Give it to me now. But yeah, that's all I have to say. Thanks everyone so much for joining us. Christian, you can play us out whenever you're ready. Thanks everyone. Bye.
Thank y'all.
Bye everybody. See you guys later. Bye.